professionals in DC, you know, barring none, you know. I'm glad to see Brother Alfonso here, who's got a big plan to help rescue a lot of the brothers and sisters in the street in DC. And I'm actually dealing with a big problem down here in Augusta, Georgia, where I'm at now. They have a meth problem here that you wouldn't imagine, so that's a whole nother type of drug abuse uh, scenario. But back to, what we were talking about. I think, Imam Praise, you had some bullet points that you want to go down the list and discuss. So let's just go ahead and start off with you wanted to discuss. That first bullet point uh, was opioid addiction and ODing. Was all about ODing.
That's right.
So if you want to go ahead and take it away, kind of give us your thesis on that.
Okay, yeah. Well, most people use the term OD, which is abbreviation for overdose. But back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, that really meant that somebody died.
Okay.
And now they use it more loosely sometimes, meaning that somebody was close to death. You'll hear that, and that people were brought back from dying. Had an intervention not taken place, they would have died.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you all, before maybe I came on, you all did one on Narcan, right?
Right.
Okay. Naloxone. But just to draw attention to why this whole thing with opioid is so ubiquitous everywhere. You can't turn around on a day or without hearing the opioid epidemic. And that's because the overdose deaths in the US have been climbing precipitously. That's why it's considered to be such a problem. Now, we've always had ODs, overdose deaths, and just the loose meaning ODs in the Black and brown communities, and I will even say in the poor European American communities, and it wasn't that big of a deal. But now you've got overdose deaths in middle class, working class European Americans. I don't like saying white because that's not objective. And it's a big deal. And a lot of those people began using that form, the pill form of opioids, through having gone to doctors after injuries and got hooked like that. But it's still, it's still it's been a problem in our community since really the 60s. But, and again, each year it's going up. I printed out some data. In 2018, there were 67,367 overdose deaths. 2019, it went up to 70,630. They have not completed, I'm not sure, but I don't think they've completed the accurate aggregation for 2020. And of course, we're 2021 is not over. But to suffice it to say that the number of overdose deaths is going up almost exponentially compared to past years.
Mhm.
And so we got problems. And that's the problem. But now we thought we'd talk about the solution now. So if you go to the next bullet point, I think, what does it say, Ibrahim? The next bullet point. You know what?
I'm
Let me
trying
say
to-
something else about overdose. And I want to ask Brother Alfonso on the subject too. Opioid overdose can occur in some strange ways. I'll give you an example that I think everybody will remember. Down by Union Station, a lot of people hang out. The homeless population hang out down that way because it's only a couple blocks from 2nd and D, the biggest shelter in America, right? Did y'all know that? Alfonso, yeah, he's shaking his head.
No, I had no idea.
The biggest in the U.S.
Okay.
So one weekend, and these were not opioid users per se, but guess what? Their drug of choice was. They were smoking this so-called synthetic marijuana. That was their drug of choice. And one weekend, I forget how many had to go to the hospital. Maybe it was 20 something, 30 something, somewhere in there approximately, but 6 or 7 died, if I remember correctly, somewhere approximately that. The following weekend, or maybe 2 weeks after that, again, 20 or 30 people ended up in emergency rooms from that same population that hang around Union Station, the homeless population who smoke that so-called synthetic marijuana. Another 10 or something died out of the over 20, maybe 30 people went to the emergency room. So that had never happened before. What's your take on that, Brother Alfonso? I mean, I have my theory about that, but I'd like to hear from Brother Padron, or what he thinks that was. It was certainly an anomaly. Couple of weekends back to back. Never happened before like that. Oh, you gotta unmute. Unmute again, Alfonso.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, while being in the stages of homelessness, when the client is without medication and isolated and within a population, the only choice to deal with the element is to self-medicate. And while they substitute the medications or list of medications that they're under and not having it, a lot of these medications are affecting their livers without them actually knowing. So a lot of the doctors, even though they're prescribing painkillers and stuff like that, this stuff is really affecting our livers. Okay, so that's leaving a taste on the palate where it's literally causing them to chase or substitute and even, oh man, administer themselves some sort of relief to deal with what they're coping with.
Yeah.
And so this synthetic stuff that they're taking right now,
Yep.
it's just killing them, because guess what? The bottom line is that they're homeless. And so in that state of homelessness to just negate that idea that they're out there in the elements, they're doing this. And so it's popping up, and yet we're always addressing the problem, which is the substance, but not the real issue of what's really happening. And so when these scientists are looking at what's being substituted as healthcare, they're missing out on what's really happening to that human being that's out in the elements, because it's affecting him psychologically.
Yeah.
And when he mixes that with medicine and does not know how to manage his medication, that's it. They're just doing anything, and so they're mixing all kind of stuff that's just causing this effect. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, good point. Something I see in that, and you know, as African Americans, we can't forget things like Tuskegee, experimentation. I can remember back in the 80s when I was using heroin intravenously. You know, we say in DC that we had a slang word for it. You go to Philly or New York, they say shooting dope. Here, the DC guys, real creative. You know how DC is. We called it oiling. Oiling. But anyway, I mean, it's so sad. You got to laugh at some things because it's just really that sad. But I'm wondering, and back in the day, the big heroin pushers would actually put a package on the street that they knew was beyond the tolerance level of the average, you know, junkies. And they would expect that people would be dying. And in that way, that would be the only package that people wanted. They might be going through withdrawal, sick as a dog, but when they heard that dope that was killing people, the guy ran out, but he went to go re-up, and he was waiting for him to come back out. They would sit there in the pain of withdrawal and wait for that particular package that was killing people. So I don't know. It just seems like somebody might have been experimenting with that synthetic marijuana that was, you know, put out to those folks those couple of weekends. And something that I learned from people where I worked at the RSC at the Reentry Sanction Center, there were synthetic marijuana smokers who knew for sure that synthetic marijuana was being laced with, you know what, the big F. And I had never heard that. Never heard that. And I couldn't believe it. Till one day I was out on Minnesota Avenue, and I said, man, what you done had, man? It was like 5 or 6 guys just laid out in the sun, just nodding, right? And I said, man, what kind of synthetic marijuana are you all on? And they said, well, it's got that fentanyl mixed in. And I said, I still didn't believe it. But the guy said, come here, Reg, look at my shirt. He said, look at my shirt. And I looked at his t-shirt, right? Look. And it had burn holes like this, looked like Swiss cheese. And that comes from nodding with the joint of synthetic. And I believed it from that day on. And it was scratching a little bit too. So, Allahu Alam, only God knows how that stuff got over there at Union Station. There is another, it used to be that with just street heroin, the overdoses came from just there being too pure of a form. The percentage, the average percentage used to be, I don't know, 5-6% pure heroin. Sometimes it would go as high as 10%. But now what's going on with people taking these pills, they even have counterfeit pills. Like it looks like what they call a doctor's prescription of Percocet, right? It's the same color and the same imprint on the pill, but it's actually some degree of fentanyl made to look like a Percocet. And so what's happening, they're taking fentanyl in this form, and if they don't have some degree of tolerance, may heaven help them. And that's causing a lot of calls to 911 for, you know, the ambulance to come and revive them with the Narcan. There's another new form of OD death that comes also from this fentanyl use. What's happening is people, long-term, older people who have been using opioids, you know, we don't just use one drug. We'll take opioid pills, we'll drink alcohol, we'll smoke a little crack, mix it all together. But what's causing a lot of opioid overdose deaths is the combining of Oxycontin pills, and then, you know, let's say if the person has tolerance, and then, you know, you want to still stay up good and high, get as high as you can, they're drinking alcohol with it. I think a lot of white folks are doing that. And the mixture of the potency of Oxycontin and alcohol together, you just can't tell that your cardiovascular system, your breathing and your heartbeat is being suppressed. And to where you just go out and the heart and the breathing just stop. And if you're by yourself, you're going out. Some people just think they're nodding, but terrible times, man. Terrible times with this overdose death. So then I guess that brings us now, we talked about the problem. Let's go on with the solution.
Right. And I think that was your next topic.
So what's the question then, Ibrahim?
The question is, where do you get treatment from if you're suffering from a substance use disorder?
Right. And a lot of us, I can tell you, a lot of us have loved ones and family members who are suffering with use disorder. Somebody told me earlier that most people know when there's a family member who has a substance use disorder, and they usually know what the substance is. Just like back in the old days, we all had, a lot of us had parents and uncles, and everybody drank alcohol back in the day. Coming home from World War II, right? Our parents and grandparents, man, they celebrated for a long time. And truth be told, alcohol still today, worldwide, kills more people from drinking alcohol than all these so-called street and illicit drugs put together. What did you say? You say you down in Georgia, you ran into, what was that, crystal meth?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Good choice around here.
But anyway, so now we want to know what to do. First of all, I guess you really have to have some heart-to-heart talks with family members, because they, what I found in my counseling, that if somebody is under the influence, that they're high as Cootie Brown, or as we used to say, high as a kite, you just wasting your time till they come down. Get some not so intoxicated, you know, before you can actually reason with them. Maybe in some cases, a person, and I know this firsthand, I got to a point where I became sick and tired of being sick and tired. The dope and the alcohol and all of that, it just really stopped working. I had OD'd myself so many times, I couldn't remember how many times. And the good Lord, God Almighty, saw fit to put me in, for a lot of us, what I call the best treatment at that time for me was to have my butt locked up for a couple of years with no access to using, so at least that I became abstinent. And I thank God for every time I was locked up. I didn't do any long period of time. The longest one time I did was about 18 months. But I got to a point where it had enough, and God guided me to this new way of life, of faith, of a practicing Muslim. But it doesn't matter. You can become born again, or get baptized, or whatever, or just having a God consciousness, a new form of God consciousness in your heart. Because everybody who I know that used like I did, who got clean, they were of a whole new God consciousness. And that's I call it really spiritual recovery. The same person will drink a drug again. So if you worked on some things and improved your soul, cleaned your soul up a little bit, you can do it. You don't have to join any particular faith. Now, what I highly recommend, and some people don't want to hear this, and they get tired of hearing it, because this works for most people who follow through with going to meetings. A lot of meetings, a lot of recovery. Little meetings, little recovery. No meetings, no recovery. The meetings, attending meetings, will mess up your getting high. You'll never get high again if you get some clean time going to meetings. To show you how the devil is, they even have commercials where what's the one? Malibu. He comes out there. We have saunas, it's by the beach, and it's looks like a 5-star hotel. And then at the end of the commercial, I guess for rich people, they can afford it. He goes like this at the end of the commercial. He says, and this is not a 12-step. And we don't, this is not a 12-step program. Like it's something wrong with that. Because a lot of people, see, when you're strung out like that, one way to describe your life is you're always looking for what? A softer, easier way. That's what the drugs give you, especially the opioids. Once you graduate up to being on opioids, it's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's just when you're going to die from the effects of that. Anyway, so if you're blessed enough that you have somebody in your family or somebody you know who's ready to go to treatment, we already know God is the help. He will show you the way. And we're in a good time right now for treatment. It's very simple. They put together, going to the Department of Behavioral Health, my favorite, where they put together simple steps for getting someone first before you go to treatment. You may need to go into a special detox. Give you an example. I have friends that are still out there. They're drinking 180 milligrams, 180 milligrams of methadone every day, and still using other drugs along with that some days. So you cannot cold turkey a methadone maintenance regimen like that. You got to go in the hospital. So the city, if I believe so, they still contract Psychiatric Institute of Washington up on what is that? Alfonso, what is that? Wisconsin Avenue?
You're talking about the PIW.
PIW, yeah, that's Psychiatric Institute of Washington. That's what that stands for.
Yeah.
But before you can get in there, I think you contact Department of Behavioral Health. And they have a 24-hour, 24/7 access hotline. And if you want, you can go on their website. Is really, this is, a lot of websites are not user friendly, but for people that you're trying to get into treatment, they have made that part of their website very user friendly, very clear cut and simple. So you could just start by calling their hotline number. And then what they will tell you is you have to bring the person to, now I remember a few years back, they only had one of these, the Assessment and Referral Center. Now they have what? 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And so you have to walk in one of the 4. I guess you go to the one closest to where you live. I've had experience with the one down on P Street, 75 P Street, Northeast, on the backside of the big DC Department of Health headquarters.
Yeah, that's the ARC Center.
The ARC Center, right. I forgot that. That's the, ARC Center. So what they will do, and you used to have an appointment to get in there. Now you can walk in anytime between 7 in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening, and they will do the assessment. And the reason for that is they have to know what you've been using, to what degree, and things like that, so they can refer you to the proper treatment facility or detox. And so, again, if you just call their 1-800 number, I'll give it out if anybody has a pen and paper. And again, this is Department of Behavioral Health. See, that's progressive. They even changed the name. It used to be, what was it, ADASA, Alcohol and Drug Addiction Services, they took that word addiction is really not functional and objective. That's why we don't use that anymore, because it's not that descriptive. We've been counselors and people in the field have been arguing about those terms for years, and they finally made a progressive move to even change the name of that to the Department of Behavioral Health. A couple of years ago when DC did it, I looked up, Connecticut did it before DC. Now there are about, I don't know, maybe as many as 10 states who have changed. And before it's all over, all 50 states are going to be calling their treatment and drug abuse disorder departments behavioral health. So again, the hotline number for DBH for short is 1-888-793-4357. I'll give it to you again. 1-888-793-4357. 888-793-4357. You start there, or either just go straight to the website. Just Google DCDBH, maybe put drug treatment, it'll come up. It's under the Department of Health's website, but it'll come up, or you can start at DC Department of Health, but it'll come right up, and it's very user-friendly as websites go, from my experience. Come on, Alfonso, add something in for us, please. Inshallah.
Absolutely. And, I'm glad that you brought it up, because this is, just like if you notice, there's a liquor store in every corner, right?
That's right.
The Department of Behavioral Health took notice to that. So they decided to come up and deploy a core service agency on every corner. So that way they could provide those mental health services and bring those clients in to get the mental hygiene that they're needing, to discover that not only are they having medical regimen problems, but they definitely are suffering the substance problems that's now is completely out of control.
Yep.
And because we have such a variety we have such a variety of options to self-medicate, we're left with choices. It's like, you don't have to go to a pharmacy to pick what's on the shelf. It's out there, and they have access to it. I mean, even the youth have access to it, okay, at an early age. So it's available, it's out there. That synthetic drug, that K2, that right there, mixture of spices,
Yep. Potpourri.
Right, and they add new stuff to it every time that makes it all the more different. But it just opens the doorway, and then it keeps you in that stasis of psychosis.
Yep.
Okay. So the issue is that we're having now the Department of Behavioral Health are involved, and now you have the Department of Human Services that provides food stamps and Medicaid. They're all involved and know this as well too. So they can't just outright come out and say it, but they're also involved, because I think the chief doctor from the Department of Human Services, when the pandemic hit, that just opened everyone's eyes. It's only when a death, if you notice, is when they deploy the outreach teams. And I think during the time of the Nation of Islam, when they were out there patrolling the streets, make sure that their communities were safe and provided for. And it's time for that type of interventions to take place again. It all stems from the outreach team now, that 24/7, we have to be out there. What was that? At New York, I think they had the angels, right? What was that called?
Guardian angels.
Guardian angels, right. So, it's time for that type of intervention to literally take place right now at this day and age, to bring those folks in, because like you said earlier, intervention is the key. And once they know that they're not alone, and they cannot be isolated, that grandiose thought of them thinking that no one is watching them when they're in broad daylight, that's the type of enforcement that has to be placed out. And that is why, I've reached out to this panel, so that way, we can provide that type of intervention, because now that they put a core service agency in every corner, it's just a regular 9-to-5 jobs for them. Okay, they literally had to integrate an ACT team, so that way they could function 24/7 to deal with the mental hygiene and the psychosis of a person and give them that psychoeducation that they needed, but that's 24/7. So now they're starting to get the idea that it is also integrated with substance use. So now, okay, the time for employment is not only for peers. You mentioned earlier, you had an addiction problem. I could literally say my clean date was since 2005 as well too. And in 2005, December 5th, 2005 was my recovery. That was the starting of my recovery and up to where I'm at now. So I see myself in that constant mirror, letting everybody know how to reflect. How could they could be on this side as well too, doing the very same thing. And now it's time for us to deploy a different aggressive team to really bring this to the front, so that way we let each other know how connected that we are, so that way this could literally come to some sort of head or some end or something.
Reducing the numbers.
Reducing the risk, or reducing the numbers, however you want to lay it out. A serious connection definitely has to be let known that these folks are not alone and they can't hide it. I got 60-year-old, 70-year-old men out there literally behaving like adolescents, you know, living and sleeping on mama's couch, going back and forth, you know, stuff like that. And the stories are never ending. They just keep increasing. And so, you know, that's what's happening. That's what's going on. And I think we're in the perfect position to really be an impact on the issue. Solution. We're the solution.
Alhamdulillah. I see Brother Haji. Would you say Ibrahim? Can't hear you. No, your connection is messing up, Ibrahim. Can't hear you. Let me ask Brother Haji this question. What brings him here? Because I know he works with a lot of, you know, quote unquote, hijri or immigrant youngsters. I'm starting to see more immigrant youngsters coming through the system. I am the volunteer Muslim chaplain over at YSC, Mount Olivet Road. That's the juvenile lockup. I've been down there as a volunteer, I guess almost 18 years. And I'm seeing immigrant kids mixed in with our youngsters there. What brings you to the forum, Brother Haji?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, I was invited by our brother Sidi Ibrahim and also Imam Amir. Also, I've been I knew about this going on for a while. Never get a chance really to attend, despite my very, very busy schedule. Even right now, I'm sorry I wasn't following much, but I had bit here and there. So I just want to correct you, because you mentioned that now you're seeing little by little the immigrant kids. I don't know why. Okay, you can call them the kids with immigrant parents, because our kids were born here, right? Unfortunately, well, fortunately, whatever you say. Even if you tell me from Senegal or Africa, they refuse.
Yep.
They be telling you they're from BC or Maryland. I mean, the behavior is something you need to understand. It's very important you guys know, because many people think it's a big mistake, because the kids we live with, they don't some Americans. You tell me from Africa, they look at you like you're crazy, and they mean it. Okay. I just wanted to correct you for that.
You're right.
this is the problem. It's even more of us than of you because you can get it. Us, we immigrants, we came here, immigrants got our kids. Right. In our community, the people. That's why when you come to our center, we decide to speak in English. Many of the immigrants, they speak their language. They speak Wolof or Amharic or whatever. Right. And that's a big mistake because the kids over there, that's why many kids, they don't even want to go to or attend these meetings. Very few kids are interested on their local languages. So basically, when we talk about, when we here in America talking, let's talk about America. Kids are here and dealing with the issues here that everybody is doing here. Same issue, no difference. So
good point.
So the
good point.
Huh?
That's a very good point.
Exactly. So basically, if you understand that, that's good. Like me, maybe I'm different from you in terms of culture because I was born in Senegal, raised a little bit. No matter how much I try to blend in, I still have some issues that I accept it. I learn from every day. I learn something new. But these kids in my house, they don't have to learn nothing. They know everything. Mm-hmm. Your kids know. The same kids. Anyway. This is the work. I think it could be a good teamwork, but unfortunately, sometimes teamwork is a problem. Yep. Because everybody bringing his own agenda. But if all the agendas comes and then clear, mm-hmm. It's clear to the cut. Everybody know what his share is and how the work is going to be done. It should be okay because we're all Muslims and we're all grown people. I don't have a problem being involved in all these meetings. Dealing with everybody like our brother here, Ibrahim. I knew him over 30 years, 38 years, a long time ago, since I came in this country.
Me too.
So I've known him for a long time. So I trust him because I knew him. So basically, if I trust him, he trusts other people, then I can trust those people through him. Mm-hmm. He's my door to many of the things that I do. Right now, we've been doing a lot of work in the Southeast area.
Alhamdulillah.
So through his work, we've been doing a lot of work. And our brother, Abdul Salam, he's here. I see he's Alfonso. I know him also for a long time. He used to come to our masjid in downtown Syria for many years, maybe for the last 8 or 10 years. But in any case, as a whole, so this is the issue. Any issue.
Right. When I met you, I was homeless.
Yeah, I don't want to mention that.
I'm transparent about this because
right. I'm not talk about
when we met, it was about homelessness. It was about homelessness and trying to
about that.
redeem everything.
Right. I'm not, you say that. I'm not going to say about that. But yet, you learn, you know so much. You know how we used to interact together. So we saw you and we interact like normal. You know, somebody who didn't have a place to stay, but you were good. You know, we like you, you liked us, and you were very nice. You came to the masjid, you know, did what you needed to do. You were there. So I know you. So basically, anyway, I just have to stop here maybe. But in any case, this is great work. What's important is the quality. And if we can get a good quality, the number is not the issue. If we can do things well, then the number is going to come and be together. But we just have to be sincere to one another and then not waste time and get things done, not be doing meeting to create another meeting, then create another meeting. We have to have a meeting to make and implement something we can do.
Sheikh. Yeah, I apologize. Astaghfirullah. And I'm aware of that the children are what you call the first generation. They're not immigrants, they're first generation. And that was one of the main objectives. Oh, I forgot how many years ago that Imam Siraj, Imam Talib Abdul Rashid from MIB, some others, and I was in the original membership of the starting of MANA, Muslim Alliance of North America, because what that did was brought together a lot of the first generation and what we call the indigenous Muslim youngsters together, and it's worked out real well. Some of them that got off track of either the indigenous or whose parents were immigrant, they got back on track through them identifying with the work and the projects that Manna does. What was I gonna say? If you all see under my name, that's not my name, but Melati Islami, that's the name of the Islamic recovery methodology, the Minhaj ul Muslim for recovery from khamr, drugs and alcohol, and other habit disorders. And we are to show you how successful it has been, we're in our 32nd year. And this is a 12-step program. However, the steps, the wording of the steps are in accord with Quran and Sunnah, where the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, first step says we admitted to God, we will say to Allah. And it's the wording allows the steps to be in agreement with Quran and Sunnah. And after 32 years, we're in many countries. We're in the Gulf Arab countries. We're in countries in Africa. We had a brother that just started, an African-American brother from America who went, some people in Albania hired him to come and set up a madrasa in Albania. And he called me from Albania. Amir knows Ajib Bilal. Ajib Bilal is in Albania. He set up a big Islamic school, but he said, Bilal, I need you to send me some of the Malati Islami Islamic recovery books, because these folks need to get an Islamic recovery meeting going over in Albania. And they started about 6 months ago, and they're still going. So and like there are Jewish folks that have an adaptation of the 12 steps. They did theirs in Hebrew, and there are different Christian groups that spin off the 12 steps. The 12 steps are very successful in helping people overcome their problems with drug habit, other habit disorders. And so we're just grateful to Allah that we're in our 32nd year. Alhamdulillah.
So as we wrap, we got about to wrap. Brother Abdul Salam.
I didn't hear you, Ibrahim.
I was like, we're going to wrap up, and I want to know whether or not there's any last words. Anybody have any last words, any parting words?
I would just like to share again, you can go to all the treatments and all the counselors you want, but it's not going to do any good until we call recovery, and Alfonso will agree to what I'm saying. This is an inside job. It begins with us and then our relationship with God. And without that, Islamically, we call it like tazkiyatun nas, purification of the soul. That's what recovery is for Muslims. But I don't care. Let me prove my point and my argument. You all know what atheists are. I don't really believe that atheists really exist. They are people who like to argue and debate with other people that there's no God. The proof of that, some psychology students did this experiment somewhere as a project. They looked up a bunch of atheists and got their phone numbers and addresses. No, they got their addresses, right? And they were going to do an experiment because I think they were all Christians, strong, believing Christians, whatever, as we say, an-Nasara. So they didn't believe there was anybody really an atheist either. So what they did, they went around to all of this list of atheists. They would knock on the door. Mr. Jones, we have some sad news for you. Your little boy just got ran over by a bus. And they go, oh my God. When they did this experiment, that's what all of these so-called atheists, the first thing all of them hollered was, oh my God. Thus proving they weren't really atheists. So I'm saying everybody has some kind, but I know people who were true atheists. I mean, they like to debate, nah, there's no God because of this just happened. And they had trouble staying clean and sober, even they were going to meetings trying to achieve sobriety. But one I knew real well, he kept picking back up and going back out. Well, he died of an overdose the last time he went out. So that shows you that if God is not in God is not in the formula. Recovery of this is spiritual recovery that leads to what we call sobriety. And I think I mentioned before the word, the Arabic word sobriety, right? That means somebody who doesn't drink or drug. That word we found through our studies came from the Arabic word sabr. Fasbir sabra jamilan. Sabr. What does sabr mean? Steadfast, constant, patient perseverance. That's the word that in English, that's where they got the word sobriety or sober, comes from sabr. That's no accident. So it's we like to say in Malati Islami, you can't deen if you ain't clean. And that's from all of the major sins, but that's the popular one, drinking and drugging. Khamr.
Alhamdulillah. All right, well, we're going to end with that description of, sobriety. We ask Allah to give us sabr.
Ameen.
And ilm.
Ameen.
And hikmah.
Ameen.
And ex Imam Sheikh Al-Haj Saab.
Yes.
Make a dua for us as we close. Close us out with a good dua.
Ameen.
اللهم يسر لنا امورنا مع الراحه لقلوبنا وابداننا والسلامه والعافيه في ديننا ودنيانا وكن لنا صاحبا في سفرنا وخليفه في اهلنا واطمس على وجوه اعدائنا وامسخهم على مكانتهم فلا يستطيعون مضيا ولا المجيء الينا ولو نشاء لطمسنا على اعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فانا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناه على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. امين. السلام الف سلام الف سلام في قلوبنا. May Allah give us sabr. May Allah give us patience. May Allah protect us all. May Allah make our projects, whatever we're trying to do, make it successful. Help us all, give us strength. Give us strength in our family, in our community. Get this disease away from us. All diseases that we know and we do not know of. What is the disease we're trying to resolve here in our community? May Allah help us, help our community to stay sober, to become believers, especially to be Muslim. Subhanallah.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Okay.
Thanks everybody. See you next time.
Okay.
Inshallah.
See, Brian, we have a little talk with this Abdul Salam. Can we do that tonight?
Yeah.
Well, can I call you right now?
Well, yeah, call me. Yeah, I was about to go around to the masjid. Oh. Can we do it at 9 o'clock?
Okay, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Yeah, I'll be finished all the salah. Okay.
Brother Abdul Salam, I'm gonna make a commitment to give you a call so we can meet up sometime.
Inshallah.
If I need to just, if for nothing else, give you one of the Malati Islami books. Look. That's the book. It says it's Islamic treatment for addiction.
Subhanallah.
Path of peace. That's what Milati Islami means.
Do you have an electronic version?